Greetings, Class 702. This is Mike Goodwin, and this is the first of our video lecture series. Today we're going to be covering psychoanalysis. I have to say to begin with that this is less than ideal conditions for me and for us, at least for today. Right now I'm on a roof in the East Village. I don't know if you can hear the helicopters above, but that's because it's 9/11, the 10th anniversary, and I guess there's a lot of police surveillance. I hope that's not picking up too much on your computer screen. I'm also borrowing a friend's computer because some of mine was damaged in the latest floods in New Jersey. This is my journal where I keep a lot of my notes and things like that. I don't know if you can tell, but this too was damaged in the flood. So bear with me a little bit if sometimes I kind of stumble upon my words, just because some of the ink has been blurred. A lot of the things we'll be covering today will be covered also in your text, and that's great, that's fine. What I'll be repeating, what we'll be talking about on our discussion boards are some of the main points in the text, and that's fine. These are the things that we want to go over. These are the things that I want you to walk away with. I do want to remind you that each one of these theories that we're going to cover in class can be its own special class in itself. So we're just going to touch the basics. We're just going to use this as an introduction to all these theories. And really, what you're trying to do is figure out which theories work for you, which ones you want to maybe invest a little bit more time in. And, probably by the end of the course, you'll say, hey, I'm really drawn to this theory, or I'm really drawn to that theory. And hopefully you can take pieces of both or each. Remember, there is no right way to counsel. Many people take snippets from many different theories. So the trick throughout this course is maybe perhaps trying to find your own style and approach. We're going to begin with psychoanalysis. And before I get into the particulars of it, I got to take you back in time a little bit. Turn of the century, turn of the 19th century, or about 1900. Mostly coming out of Vienna, Austria right now. This is where Freud is doing his practice. And what we need to realize is what life was like for people with issues or problems or conflicts before this time period. Before this time period, if you were emotionally stressed or having difficulties in life, and you couldn't cope, if you couldn't manage things, you were pretty much ostracized. You were pretty much left to deal with your own mental issues. There was no real place to go to for help. There were no doctors to seek. There was no advice. And oftentimes, if you were severely depressed or severely anxious or severely troubled, they would put you into an asylum, into some sort of bedlam, where the conditions were not great at all. They were certainly not conducive to recovery or any sort of catharsis. This was a place where you were just removed from society. So up until this point, there was the mentality of just simply getting rid of the mentally ill or people who were struggling or people who were having issues. This wasn't something that people were comfortable addressing in their daily lives. Oftentimes people covered up their problems or their issues because they didn't want people to know that they were struggling. So again, that's the time period, that's the place. And that's exactly what was happening to Sigmund Freud himself. He was beginning to have some issues in his own life in his 30s and 40s. He was extremely paranoid, had a lot of issues with the fear of death, a lot of other psychosomatic issues. Rumors has it he had a cocaine addiction, and really was not in the best place mentally, although he was a successful physician and somewhat of a philosopher in those times. So what Freud began to do was he began to look at his own issues. He began to analyze himself. This is the beginning of psychoanalysis. Particularly, he was looking at his dreams. He was looking at his inner thoughts. He began to return to his childhood to try to uncover some of the reasons why he may be the person that he is, and maybe perhaps think the way that he thinks. So he kind of went back in time a little bit explored his feelings towards his parents, Jewish immigrants, and thought about his feelings towards his father, which actually there was a lot of hatred there, particularly directed at the fact that he probably had some feelings for his mother, which later comes out in his psychosexual stages. I want to bring up at this point that this is the advent of psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis has changed over the course of the years. Oftentimes, psychoanalysis is the basis for many other theories that we're going to come to follow. Either people are building upon this theory or people are rejecting this theory. But this theory cannot be overstated because it really was the foundation and really got the ball rolling and getting people to think about the mind and its effects on one's state and whether or not we can change and whether or not we can come to some sort of catharsis through understanding ourselves a little bit better. So once again, this kind of took place in Vienna. Particularly Freud's work influenced Alfred Adler, who we're going to be talking about next week, and also Carl Jung. Carl Jung we'll be talking about in this lecture a little bit. Once his supposed spiritual heir, the person who was supposed to kind of follow and take Freud's stuff to the next level, eventually splintered from Freud, and we'll go over some of the things that he did splinter. Freud is responsible for inventing the talking cure. Talking cure is basically kind of the beginning of therapy. It's about you talking about your feelings, about your thoughts, about your past, reliving experiences, and hopefully through discussion and through analysis, we'll begin to cure ourselves. This is all part of personality development, and we oftentimes look when talking about psychoanalysis, we talk about the psychodynamic factors that motivate our behavior. And one of those big things, particularly in psychoanalysis, is the concept of the unconscious. Things that go on behind the scenes, things that we're not aware of, things that are happening automatically. Freud is one of the few therapists to say that human life and human understanding is deterministic, that we're controlled by irrational forces, that everything is unconsciously motivated. Particularly with Freud, sex would be a huge motivator.